Alright, so tonight we thought we'd share a recipe that we make quite often. We bought this book quite a while ago, and we've made quite a few recipes out of it. The only thing we found as universally through this book is they put in 2 or 3 times the amount of salt that we like. We made the first few times with the same salt, too much. So today's recipe that we're going to specifically make is this recipe that we do quite often. Our kids really like it, and we do this with our ground pork, and it's a breakfast sausage. So this recipe does call for the sausage to be put in casings, but we don't like it that way. We prefer to make it up and just do it into patties. So so I've done some conversions with this recipe. This recipe is it's for making up 5 pounds worth, and today, right here, what we have is about 4 pounds. So it's pretty simple. Get a little scale. You can do the conversions yourself, and we'll share, like, if you did one of our packages, what it would be. Like, so these are about 1 1/3 pound. And everything else is pretty standard stuff you'd have in your kitchen. We have some ground, or some ginger, and when we do our ginger, so our recipe converted today calls for a 1/4 cup of ginger, and what we do is we freeze our ginger, and then we just knock some of the stuff off, and we don't worry too much if we get it all. Maybe we'll take that little bit of stuff there, but mostly we just take some of the skin off, because if some of it goes into the sausage, it really doesn't matter. And then you can use either a little microplane or one of this style here. So I kind of prefer this style here, and by keeping your ginger frozen, you'll see that it grates very, very nice. If you try to do the same thing with this piece, which is fresh, it doesn't quite work as nice. We find it ends up making this kind of pilly thing here, whereas this goes very good. So a 1/4 cup of this, a 1/4 cup of sage, and again, this is for 4 pounds. And then today we're going to put in, we'll probably put even, we've already halved the salt, but we're probably going to halve the salt again from what we had said. So start off by opening up our packs of ground pork. Again, this was ground pork from the pigs that we butchered in, I guess, January of this year. And we do still have some ground pork left if anyone's interested. And of all the recipes we've tried, this one has been one of the favorites with everyone. And like I said, we make this up and we just put it, we'll freeze it in bags of about the same size as this. You even just take a regular little Ziploc, and then when we're ready to have it, take it out, and the kids will make they'll just make patties, and they'll make it up for breakfast egg sandwiches and what have you. So that's all we're doing here. We want a 1/4 cup of ginger, so I'm kind of estimating this somewhat, but I don't think we're too far off there. I'll probably end up putting most of that in. We like the ginger flavor anyways. And then we need a 1/4 cup of the sage. Now we normally use the leaf sage, or like a fresh sage that you can get at Bulk Barn or any of those places. But today we have the finer sage, so that's what we're going to use. And the recipe calls for minced garlic, calls for 2½ teaspoons of the minced garlic. So 2.5 teaspoons of the minced garlic, and we might just put a tiny bit extra because a lot of these recipes I estimated on. And then with our salt, it calls for 4 teaspoons of the salt. So that is 2.5, so we'll do 2. So I think we will go just a little under the 4 teaspoons that it calls for. And then black pepper, we want 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. One and a half. Again, this is all pretty rough. You don't have to be perfect on it. And put that in there. Double check my stuff. Yeah, so that's everything. So again, since we don't do the, we don't put this in casings, we also don't use the cold water that the recipe calls for, because some of that is for setting up the sausage kind of before you put it into the casings, and since we're not casing it, it's really not important. We just try to do a good job of getting everything kind of mixed around through it. And then we'll let this kind of sit in the fridge for a little bit to kind of get good flavoring all through it. The other thing that I would say from that book is when you're making any recipe out of that book or any book, when you get to this stage here and you got it mixed up well, stop for 2 seconds, mix up a tiny little, make yourself a little tiny patty once you figure you have it mixed well, and see if you like the flavor, because you can always add something at this stage, or if it's too salty you could add more meat. So that's pretty much it. And if you look in the bowl here now, you can just kind of see that there's some green kind of coloring through it from the sage, but for the most part it's kind of mixed in. And when we go to use that, like I said, we'll just put it in a little sandwich bag and we'll mix little patties. And for us, we don't like a big thick patty like that. We usually take ours and smash them right out really thin, or make them smaller than that, but make them really thin so that when they fry up crispy. And then that makes a good little topper for an egg sandwich. So thank you for watching, and if you have a moment, hit like and subscribe to our channel, and thank you very much.